It's a life-changing device for type 1 diabetics, but continuous glucose monitors come at a huge cost. Pharmac is refusing calls to fund the devices, despite evidence of huge savings to the health budget. Nearly 30,000 New Zealanders are living with type 1 diabetes, and the prevalence in school children is growing to around 1 in 500. And as Louise Tanuth reports, parents say life without the devices is extremely challenging.
It's a round disc about the size of a $2 coin that sticks to your arm and checks your glucose levels 24/7 without the pain of pricking your finger several times a day. When linked to an insulin pump, it removes the risks for type 1 diabetics, preventing seizures, fainting and even death from low blood sugar. 28-year-old Jack Coford was told to give up on his dream of becoming a pilot after failing his medical exam 2 years ago when his type 1 diabetes was picked up for the first time. Just weeks ago, he finally got clearance to become one of very few pilots in the country with type 1 diabetes, thanks to a CGM.
There's alarms on there that make you aware that if your levels are trending in a direction within a certain amount of time, if you're going anywhere near that, within half an hour, your phone or whatever is going to make some noises. It gets quite annoying. It goes through your headset if you're in the plane, and then you can deal with it at the time.
But it's costing him about $400 a month, and while he says it's worth it for his dream job, it's not sustainable. He's not alone. Alicia Mitchell's 2 children and husband have type 1 diabetes. She's had to give up her job to look after them full-time. A few years ago, they made the switch to CGMs for the children. Life without them is not something she wants to revisit.
It's like having a newborn. In fact, it's probably worse than having a newborn. I had alarms every 2 hours throughout the night to get up and to check my children's blood sugars. So for me now, because I've got the alarms with the CGM, I can actually get more than 2 hours sleep at a time, but it comes at a massive cost.
But they can't afford another device for her husband. It's already costing them $12,000 a year. With other countries like Australia and the UK funding them, she says it's insulting.
It frustrates me to the point that we have looked at moving to Australia. It is something that we don't want to do because all our support networks here, but the money that we're losing every year and when we can get it somewhere else funded, it's incredibly tough.
The cost of diabetes in New Zealand is $2.1 billion a year. It is predicted to increase by over $1 billion in the next 2 decades. But that money could be saved if all diabetics were given access to CGMs. According to endocrinologist and paediatrics diabetes specialist Dr. Ben Wheeler.
People with diabetes lose on average around 20 years of their lifespan. And if we're getting young, healthy children, if we can keep their glucose in target, that's an enormous benefit to our health system in preventing those complications, blindness, renal failure, dialysis, transplant, all of those things, heart disease.
He says as a country, we're lagging far behind.
We have the highest rates in the world for whatever reason. The South Island has higher rates than the North Island. So again, New Zealand really has to be at the forefront of how we apply new diabetes therapies. We shouldn't be at the very back of the queue.
A queue CEO of Diabetes New Zealand, Heather Very, says is never ending.
Very disappointingly, there's nothing from coming out of Pharmac to suggest that this technology will be funded. The standard response, which is that it's on the list, but until such time as they have money that they can allocate to it, they won't be funded.
In a statement, Pharmac says it has 2 CGMs on their options for investment list. They would like to fund them, but they need to make difficult choices.
Louise Tanuth reporting there, and it is 9 minutes to 6.